Hello, this is Breakfast with Katherine Downes and John Kay.
Protesters hail a new dawn in Kiev, but in the east of Ukraine, President Yanukovych says he is still in power. Hello, good morning. It is Sunday, the 23rd of February.
Also ahead this morning, a war.
And Jay has the weather for us this morning. Thank you very much, Jay.
Good morning. First, our main story, and anti-government protesters in Kiev have maintained their presence in the city centre overnight following that announcement yesterday that Parliament had removed President Viktor Yanukovych from office.
Mr. Yanukovych has remained defiant, though, and he calls the moves against him a coup. Ukraine's former Prime Minister, Yulia Tymoshenko, addressed thousands of demonstrators in Independence Square after being freed from more than 2 years in prison. Simon Clemison reports. Well, our Europe correspondent Duncan Crawford joins us now from Kiev. And Duncan, a fairly pivotal day for the country yesterday. What is going on there today? OK, Duncan Crawford in Kiev. Thanks very much for now.
Here, the British Chambers of Commerce has called on the Chancellor to invest in youth training and employment to avoid what it's calling a lost generation.
In its submission ahead of next month's budget, the group is pressing for a £100 million fund to be established to get young people into work or apprenticeships. Our business correspondent Joe Lynham has more. 19 Afghan soldiers have been killed and 7 others are missing after the Taliban attacked an army base in eastern Afghanistan in the early hours of this morning. The UK and Scottish cabinets will hold separate meetings in the Aberdeen area tomorrow as they address the future of Scotland's oil industry in the light of the independence debate.
As David Cameron will explain why he thinks the industry would benefit from staying in the UK. Meanwhile, Alex Salmond will promise that the Energy Department of an independent Scotland would have its headquarters partly in the Aberdeen area. Our political correspondent, Young, thank you very much indeed.
Gunmen have opened fire on an anti-government rally in eastern Thailand, killing a 5-year-old girl and wounding dozens of people.
America has hailed the arrest of one of Mexico's most wanted drugs barons as a landmark achievement. The last surviving member of the Von Trapp family singers, made famous in The Sound of Music, has died. Maria Von Trapp. The Sochi Winter Olympics come to an end later today. Before the closing ceremony gets underway, though, there are still medals to be won. And Great Britain has already equalled its best ever medal tally at a Winter Games, but the 4-man bobsleigh crew could have an outside shot at a podium finish, which would mean best ever. Yep, last 2 runs today. Our sports correspondent, what do you think their chances are? Been a fairly successful games as well for the organisers. Lots of concerns before the games started about what the political ramifications of holding an Olympics in Russia, but it all seems to have gone fairly smoothly, doesn't it? This in your shirt sleeves in Sochi. Thanks very much for now. Is he hard as nails, or is it just very mild over there? I think, well, he says all the snow's melted, so it must be pretty warm. Winter Olympics in a shirt sleeves. Excellent. It's 12 minutes past 8. We'll get the weather with Jay in a few minutes' time. But first, let's return to our top story today. Yes, people in Ukraine face an uncertain future after a 3-month standoff between authorities and protesters came to a head yesterday. Yeah, the country's parliament has now voted to impeach the president, Yanukovych, and he has left the capital. Exactly where he is, nobody knows. But the parliament yesterday did vote to hold elections in May. For Ukrainians living here in the UK, though, it has been a worrying time. We're joined now by Olena Semenog, a student. Thank you both for coming in. And Olena, we were talking to you a little bit earlier on. Your family have been involved in those protests in Ukraine, haven't they? Tell us a little bit more about what's been going on.
So my dad...
I suppose what people want to see is actual change happening.
Justice, for democracy, for a good future for their own children, and they are the true heroes
that are being made, or the potential that's been announced that we might be back in this situation again in the future.
I'm worried, but it is in our hearts.
Yes.
We mourn for those people. We know
1 or 2 that have only just recently come back, and portrayed as extremists. These are everyday people who have got all ordinary jobs, but they are fighting for a cause. They're fighting.
Your own family's experiences. Thank you.
It is coming up to 20 past 8 and you're watching Breakfast from BBC News. The main stories this morning. Right, let's see what the weather has in store for us this Sunday and into the beginning of the week, shall we? Jay Wynn joins us. Hi, Jay. Jay, thank you. Thanks very much indeed. We'll catch up with you again later. Now, for years, Britain has lagged behind its European neighbours when it comes to spending money to make cycling safer and more pleasant.
But with the Tour de France coming to Yorkshire, Cambridge and London in the summer, our love affair with the bike apparently has been rekindled. So we sent Paul Ogden to Holland to see what we can learn from that famously cycling-friendly country.
And you can see more on that story on Inside Out on BBC One in Yorkshire and Lincolnshire at 7:30 tomorrow evening, or of course on BBC iPlayer.
Are you a cyclist?
No. I just find it incredibly uncomfortable.
Especially at this time of the morning.
I know. I feel very guilty. I know that I should be out there saving the world, but
maybe another day.
It's not for me.
It's 8:25. Let's have a look at the papers, shall we? The Sunday papers. Bishop Steve front pages dealing with Ukraine, which we've already talked about. Yeah. But what else have you spotted?
Well, there are two medical stories I want to start with. First of all, from the index on A&E will zoom up again, and one way or another, we're in a catch-22 situation. If you're not for A&E, and the problems at A&E will rise, and the government will complain that too many people are to be sustained in order to enable the pressure on A&Es to be relieved. And the government doesn't somehow seem to have its act together on consistency of approach here.
I got a survey from my GP surgery yesterday saying, would I be interested in the future thinking about Skype appointments, and emails, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think actually the possibility.
For GPs then, in the Sunday Express,
yeah.
Ed Miliband calling for more money. I imagine it's going to be a question of money, isn't it, to improve...
amount in lost days in terms of employment, in people actually ending up in prison rather than in proper mental health institutions.
We've spoken to the government about this before, and the health department say that they are investing more than ever before in mental health services, don't they?
Well met.
A story here in The Observer about brothels in Soho and the priest getting involved.
I thought this...
Certainly an argument for that, isn't there? And one for everybody in The Sun here, I think. I mean, take your pick on the truth when they're asked the question.
Then they accuse...
Because they're all sent to Coventry.
Yes.
Bournemouth is the hot spot for addiction. Pollution is... It's interesting, but on the other hand, is that what these cities need? And is that the way in which we're going to actually deal with some of the problems exist in those cities? OK,
Bishop Stephen, thank you very much indeed. We'll see you again soon.
Coming up in the next half hour, why independent bookshops are battling for survival. High Street.
I wonder which city is best for independent bookshops. Stay with us. Headlines coming up in a second. Hello there, good morning. This is Breakfast with Katherine Downes and John Kay.
Our main stories this morning, Ukrainian generation in its submission.
19 Afghan soldiers have been killed and 7 others are missing after the Taliban attacked an army base in eastern Afghanistan in the early hours of this morning. The attack happened. Gunmen have opened fire on an anti-government rally in eastern Thailand, killing a 5-year-old girl and wounding dozens of people.
The last surviving member of the Von Trapp family singers, made famous, of course, in the Sound of Music movie, has died. Maria, sometimes easy to forget, isn't it, that movie is a real-life story.
A real family from a real place, yeah. Absolutely.
Real singers as well. Yeah. It is just coming up to 25 to 9, and Richard is here with the sport. A busy and exciting weekend of Six Nations rugby, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all opened up, hasn't it? Thanks to that man, in part, Danny Kerr, who scored the crucial try for England. We've got 4 nations all on the same points now at the top of the table. So England very much back in the UK cross-country skiing. He's 53rd at the moment. There are lots of competitors in that, so you never know, he might come through the field.
That's the one that you like the look of, isn't it?
I love that, actually, because they all start together. It's quite simple, whoever cross-timing people. So hopefully he'll work his way through the field.
Richard, thank you very much indeed.
Now, first came the Wizards of Harry Potter, then the Vampires of Twilight. Now a tale of alien invasion is set to become the next teen reading obsession.
Yes, it's called The Fifth Wave, and it was yesterday honoured with a Red House Children's Book Award, the only one of those awards that's actually voted for by young readers themselves.
The novel, the first in a planned trilogy, was written by Rick Yancey, and fresh from picking up his trophy, I'm pleased to say, violence in there, some fairly fruity language, so young readers like their books gritty these days, it seems.
I suppose so.
An old topic, though, is it? Lots of people have tackled what would happen if aliens came down to our planet and tried to take over. So why was it you felt that you could take on a topic that's been written about quite a lot and make it a bit different?
Yeah, that was what it us, because it probably won't turn out very well. And that got me to thinking about how to approach an alien invasion as not the aliens that we have always imagined.
It is quite frightening in places, isn't it? I mean, do you
It's quite
think
intense.
do you think that's why young people have voted for it? Do you think they like to be terrified, but do you think they like the fact that they're not being patronised or hidden away from reality, if you like?
Right. Realistic sort of level. If it actually happened, how would people react? What would happen to human society? And that's what's...
First book of a trilogy.
Yes.
And without giving too much away, of course, it ends and the aliens are still with us.
They're still hanging around.
So how's the story going to evolve? And can you let us know whether Earth ever shakes them off?
I don't want...
And the movie rights were already signed and sealed before you'd even finished the book.
Before I even finished the book, which was absolutely amazing entertainment. We'll be bringing out the film. Right now it's slated for summer of 2015.
An author from Great Britain and an owner of an independent bookstore as well, about the fact that independent bookstores here in the UK are in decline. What's your experience as an author in the US? Do you even have independent bookstores, or is it all big malls?
Well, I will say...
You have is a Silver Book Award, which is fantastic.
Yes,
that is your...
It's solid wood, and but it's just beautiful. They engrave the names of the authors. But, you know, as we said in the intro, I mean, to win something like this is voted, and other authors like J.K. Rowling have won this award, and it's very...
You can't get those on the internet.
No, you don't.
Rick, thank you very much indeed. All the best with the
Great
book
to
and the
meet
movie,
you.
and really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks very
Take
much. Now it is 10 to 9 and you're watching Breakfast from BBC News. The main stories this morning.
Catherine is off to read the news on the Andrew Marr Show in a moment, so we say goodbye to you.
Yep, that's it. Thank you very much for having me this morning, John.
Lovely to have you.
Bye-bye.
And should we go to Jay? Jay's not leaving just yet. Jay's sticking around with the weather. Hi, Jay.